Let's go on with the class cards then. Everybody gets 3. Start with Druid. The Enchanted Raven, a 2/2 beast for 1. Now, that's on first glance pretty good. There was a 1 mana 2/3 Zombie Chow, which had a downside, but the downside was more or less irrelevant in the decks that ran it. And not everybody was running it. Not only because of the downside, but some decks where the downside wouldn't have mattered still didn't run it because, yeah, it sometimes was hard to find a spot for it. I think more relevant than the 2/2 stats is that it is a beast, and Beast Druid is at the verge of being good. So giving them a few more tools might, make a new archetype be playable on a higher level. An Enchanted Raven together with the next one might be enough. Obviously, the dream opener would be turn 1 Enchanted Raven, turn 2 Mark of Yeshuraj. Since I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to mulligan for, because if you have Mark of Yeshuraj on your hand before you mulligan, but you don't have a 1-drop or at least a 2-drop, it's too risky to keep Mark of Yeshuraj on your hand, I'd say. You're probably going to mulligan it away to increase your chances of getting 1-drops or 2-drops. So I don't know how often you can actually pull that opener off, but if you can, then that's pretty good. Next one is the Menagerie Warden, 6 mana, 5/5. Battlecry, choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. This obviously depends heavily on what you hit. If you hit something good, then it's amazing. If you hit something bad, then it's not so good. If you had hit nothing, it's pretty terrible. The good thing is you copy everything. You copy Mark of Yeshuraj, Mark of Natures, everything that's on that creature, you copy it. So if you copy a good target, what would be a good target? Like Druid of the Claw or Tiger. Especially with Tiger, you can play Tiger on turn 5 and it has stealth next turn. It's probably still going to be alive. You can Menagerie Warden it, and 2 5/5s for 6 mana, that's amazingly good. So yes, definitely I will try this in a Beast Druid, and I think it might work. But again, you need to have something on the board. If you play this without something on the board, then it's pretty bad. In Arena, depends heavily on whether you can get enough beasts. Getting enough beasts is far more easy than getting dragons, but it's still dependent on your and whatever you can draft. Moonblade Portal, restore 6 health, summon a random 6-cost minion for 6. The 6-drop spot has some very, very strong cards. I mean, if you get for 6 mana, restore 6 health and get Sylvanas, then you're going to be very, very happy. But there's also some crap in there. I'm not too certain about this, whether restoring 6 health is relevant enough to warrant not actually playing Sylvanas, but playing something random. Now, the 6-cost spot is not really insanely bad in value, but personally I'm not too much of a fan of this summon a random blah cost minion. So I'm not too happy about this card. In Arena, it's potentially better, I'd say, because, well, summon random card is generally better in Arena than it is in Constructed, because you have less of a set game plan, and healing something for 6 and getting a random 6-drop for 6, that can be really good in Arena. That's a Druid, 2 good beast cards and 1, possibly good card, but I don't think so. Hunter, Kindly Grandmother, 2-drop for 1/1, Death Rattle, summon 3/2. Both of them are beasts, so this is again more focused for Beast Hunter. It's a somewhat slowish card, even though you get quite a lot of stats for a 2-drop. It's slow, which is good because if you give Hunter more fast cards, it's just going to be turned into Phase Race, even more than it already is. Is this going to be enough? It's very much possible because Beast Hunter, you really need beasts, sticky beasts for your Houndmaster. So yeah, this is possibly a good card for both Arena and Constructed. Cloaked Huntress, your secrets cost 0. It's a 3-drop with 3/4 stats. 3/4 stats for a 3-drop, that's very good stats. Your secrets cost 0. I mean, Hunter really wanted to play secrets when you could cheat them out like nothing. With this, you can kind of cheat them out. You still need to draw them. But you can, on the other hand, if you have 3 secrets on your hand and play this, you can play 3 secrets for nothing. For no mana. And that would be very strong. Is it strong enough? That has to be seen. It might make it. I think it's possible. I think it's on the verge of being good enough. But I think I have to try this out. So this is, I'd say, a potentially good card. Potentially good enough to be played and constructed. In Arena, no. You don't have enough secrets there, usually. Cat Trick, and Hunter gets a new secret. After your opponent casts a spell, summon a 4/2 Panther Stealth. So you essentially get 1 mana discount on the 4/2 Panther, because that usually costs 3. And is a card that doesn't see play at the moment. So it's not really worth 3. But on the other hand, it's a secret, so you get the potential synergy with the bow, you get potential synergy with lock and load, and you get the potential benefit that your opponent has to check for secrets, which might make him play awkwardly, and that's a bit hard to put a value on. So yeah, especially in combination with Cloaked Huntress, it might be a possibility, especially because even all the aggressive decks and all the minion heavy decks like Zulok run enough spells, I'd say, like with Power Overwhelming and Mortal Coil and everything. They run enough secrets so that this might trigger, or this has a very high chance of triggering, actually. So potentially. In Arena, far less good because far less spells. So that's Hunter. Try to give them some cards that are less face oriented, which I approve. Though this one might actually be possible. Maybe. I don't know. Mage. Medivh's Valet. 2-drop, 2/3. If you control a secret, deal 3 damage as a battle cry. So if you can pull this off, this is amazingly good. A 2/3, dealing 3 damage is essentially worth 2 mana. Well, as a mage, you can get that for 2 mana and an upside, but that upside is rarely relevant. Usually the 3 mana, you use that to kill something. So if you can pull this off, you get you get your 3 damage, and on top of that, a 2/3. Sorry, had to drink something there. The thing is, your secrets cost 3, so you're never going to be able to play this on turn 2 with the effect. But I think that's not really very, very problematic. I think on its own this card is still good because on turn 2, you can play it as a 2/3 if you have to, and that's not terrible. And if you can keep it back, hold it back, and play it in conjunction with a secret, or while you have your ice block out and that just sits there, that's potentially very, very good. On the other hand, of the existing deck, what would you cut to put this in? And there I'm not too certain. Maybe, again, there are not that many mage decks that run too many secrets. Freeze Mage is pretty much the only deck that really runs secrets right now. And in Freeze Mage, you don't need this. So if you can build a deck that's actually useful and has secrets and wants to kill individual creatures, individual minions, then this is pretty good. At the moment, I don't think that there really is a deck like that. But if you can build one, then this would be a good addition. In Arena, it entirely depends on whether you can get enough secrets to reliably use this. But even if you don't have that many secrets, it's a 2-mana 2/3, so for Arena that's not bad. Firelance Portal, 7 mana, deal 5 damage, summon a random 5-cost minion. Again, with the summon random minion, I'm not a fan of that, again. But potentially this is great. 5 damage is more or less a damage threshold. 5 damage is enough most of the time. And summoning a 5 drop is... Well, if you say this, that summoning a random 5 drop is worth maybe 4 mana, then you're paying 3 mana to deal 5 damage, all of that in one card, but you can only do it at turn 7, and is that good or not? I mean, it's on a spot where it competes with Flame Strike, and the way the meta is right now, I'd say Flame Strike is more useful than Firelance Portal, because there are far more decks that try to rush you down with tons of creatures, with tons of little creatures, than there are decks that try to kill you with individual big creatures. And those that have individual big creatures, they very often have actually more than 5 health. So, in Constructed, even though I think it's potentially a good card, I think it's at the moment not a good card. Just because how the meta is. If the meta changes towards more mid-rangey stuff, more, if you see more Cairns, more Sylvanas, though there it depends on how the effect order works. If Sylvanas dies, its death rattle takes effect, seals nothing, then you summon. Or if you summon, deal damage at the same time, and then Sylvanas death rattle takes an effect, that's, I don't know, actually. I just thought about that. I haven't checked it. So, yeah. If the meta turns towards more mid-range stuff, then this is potentially good. If it stays at the swarming stage, then this is pretty bad. In Arena, it's a very good card. In Arena, I'd be happy to draft this. Babbling Book. 1 mana, 1/1. Battle Cry, add a random mage spell to your hand. I think this is a pretty good card. It doesn't look like much, but I think it's pretty good. In Arena, it's obviously awesome, because in Arena, you have to usually have all the spells you can get, all the additional spells. It's a 1/1 that gives you... It's not really draw a card, but it is close enough. In Arena, it is more or less draw a card. Almost. In Constructed, it's less good than draw a card, but even though there are some mage spells that are pretty bad, if you are running a spell-heavy deck, a Flamewaker deck, then I think the majority, if not the vast majority of mage spells are going to be useful to you. And it's a 1-drop. You can play it on turn 1. You have 1 more card that you can play on, or 1 more minion that you can play on turn 1. And whenever you have 1 mana left over, you can just squeeze this in. So
I think this is okay. It's not amazing, it's not flashy, it's not really powerful, it's not going to win you the game most of the time, but it's not bad. I think it's okay, it's good, I think it's going to be playable. If it's going to be played, that's another question, but I think it's playable. Paladin. We have the Nightbane Templar. That's the reason why I think maybe Dragon Paladin is a possibility. It's a 3 mana 2/3 battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, summon 2 1/1 whelps. Obviously, this is pretty good. It gives you like Yeti stats for 3 mana. And an interesting spread, because you get 2 1/1s, so your opponent can't just ping off all of them. You can only ping off one of them. You still have one left. A 2/3, like a 2-drop. So for 1 more mana, you get 2 1/1 whelps, more or less. Not really, but almost. So yeah, in a dragon deck, I'd definitely play this. This is going to be a lot of help early on against the swarm decks. In Arena, Dragon. The good old dragon problem in Arena. Silver Moon Portal. Give a minion +2/+2, summon a random 2-cost minion. Now, with 2-cost minions, there's a big spread in power level. Could be very good, could be quite bad. Could be potentially disastrous if you pull a Doomsayer out. Giving +2/+2, is that worth 2 mana? It would be... a random 2-cost minion, you would want to pay less than 2 mana for that, right? So how much is +2/+2 for a minion worth? It's not worth 2 mana, because there are 2 mana cards which give +2/+2, and they don't see any play. So I think this is a pretty bad card. And not only is this a pretty bad card in Constructed, it's in a mana spot at 4 mana where it competes with a lot of very, very good cards. So no, this is not. I don't see this in Constructed at all. In Arena, on the other hand, it's potentially not bad. But even there, I think as a Paladin, you usually get offered so many useful or good 4-drops that you would not really want this. Ivory Knight. Battlecry, discover a spell, restore health to your hero equal to its cost, and it's a 6-drop at 4/4. Now, discovering a spell is an interesting mechanic, because as usually with Discover, you can adapt it to what you want right now. You can either go for something that's very expensive to get a big heal, or you can go for a spell that you actually need right now. I think the problem here is that Paladin has a number of spells that are pretty bad. And does Paladin really need more heal? I'd say Paladin is probably one of the few classes that actually don't really need more heal. So I think the healing aspect is going to be less relevant for a Paladin with the Ivory Knight, possibly. Especially because Paladin has so many very cheap spells. You have 0 mana spells, all your secrets are 1 mana, and yeah. No, the heal is not going to be very reliable. And especially considering that many of the more expensive spells are not really that good, so you don't necessarily want them. So, nice idea, potentially useful, not amazing. In Arena, on the other hand, I think it's pretty good, because Arena is a little bit slower generally, so you can get away with playing a 4/4 on turn 6 better, and discovering a spell in Arena is very strong. Priest, Purify. A lot of people have done a video only about Purify, and yeah, that's understandable.
This card is crap. This card is almost an insult. This card is so bad that Ben Brode made a video statement specifically only about this card. And I disagree with most of what he said in there. He said that cards don't need to be good. Cards can also be made only because they're fun. That's something that I very much agree with. But I don't see... This card is obviously really, really terrible. And I don't see where it is fun. It's a card that already exists with higher mana costs, a less good effect, but it draws a card. Priest already has a 0 mana silence any minion. Would you pay 2 more mana to make it only friendly minions, which decreases its potential and effectiveness by a lot, and give it draw a card? I don't think that I would play this if it said silence a minion, draw a card. I think if it said silence a minion, draw a card, it would still be worse than 0 mana silence a minion. Because 0 mana silence a minion is extremely flexible, because you can play it in anything, in any turn, in addition to anything. And I would not pay 2 mana just to draw a card. Now it's only silence friendly minion. That's a huge drawback. So they took a card that already existed, so no play at all, made it worse, and gave that to the worst class that there is at the moment. That's a ballsy move. So yeah, this card is utter crap. And the excuse, or I don't know if you want to call it an excuse, the reason to print this, saying, yeah, we don't print cards necessarily to be good, we also print them to be fun, doesn't work at all here, because I don't see where this card is in any way fun, because it already exists in a better configuration, with better text and better mana costs, and sees no play at all. So holy shit, this is really bad. Priest of the Feast. 4 mana, whenever you cast a spell, restore 3 health to your hero. For 3/6. Now 3/6, that's a stat line that's good for Priest. Priest wants minions with more health, so that they tend to survive and you can heal them. Whenever you cast a spell, restore 3 health to your hero. That's, I'd say, an okay card text. It's not great, but it's not bad. I'm pretty much absolutely certain that it's not enough to get Priest out of its spot right now. The main reason why Priest is so bad, because it has terrible early game. It doesn't have really good 2-drops that it wants to play, especially not proactively, and this doesn't help with that problem. So while it's not a bad card, I think it's not enough. In Arena, I'd say it's more of a bad card, because you can't really use the card text that much. Onyx Bishop. Here's a lazy card. Almost as lazy as Purify, because they took a card an effect that already existed and just tacked it on here. The problem here is with that already existed with the card that has that text. Building a deck around this means that you can't have a lot of early game minions, because you don't want to resummon them, because they are later on not worth it. And actually, Onyx Bishop is a card you would not want to resummon. You don't want to resummon a 3/4. You want to resummon your 4/7. So, and that deck already doesn't work. And I think that deck would become potentially worse if you add Onyx Bishop. Because if it dies before you've punched out all of your resummon cards, then you might resummon Onyx Bishop, and you don't want this one back. So, pretty bad. In Arena, yeah, also not good.
So, doesn't seem like a good card for me. Poor priest. Rogue, Swashbuckler. 1-drop, 1/1, add a random class card from your opponent's class to your hand. So more steely cards. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that gives you a card. As I said, 1 mana cards that give you a card are, or minions that give you a card, are rarely bad. Getting a random card from your opponent's class, that can be potentially insane if you get something that combos with your stuff in a way that was never intended. It can be pretty bad if you get like Shatter or something like that you can't use at all. But this being a 1 mana again means you can play it on turn 1, you can just squeeze it in from time to time, and it's a pirate. That's not really relevant at the moment, I think, but well, it could be an upside. So okay, it's an okay card. In Arena, I think it's a pretty good card. I think you'd be happy to get this in Arena. In Constructed, the stealing class or stealing archetype rogue is not really taken off at the moment. It's more of an upside that you take with it, but I don't think that this is enough to make it really an archetype. I don't think that it ever will be an archetype because it's just unreliable, but it's a nice upside and it has potential. The Deadly Fork, 3/2, add Death Rattle, add a 3/2 weapon to your hand. It doesn't equip it, it adds it to your hand. I'll show you the weapon later on when we go to, I can do it right away then. So 3 mana for 3/2, that's obviously not good, so the weapon needs to be nice. The problem I have with rogues and weapons is if you have a weapon, you can't use your hero power anymore, and that can become, a little bit bad because you can run into situations where you can't curve out perfectly, and those are the situations where every class will want to use its hero power. And with Rogue, when you have a weapon in your hand, you can't use your hero power, so that can be a significant downside. I'll show you the weapon. This one, a Sharp Fork, a 3 mana 3/2 weapon. Now, a 2 mana 3/2 is one of the best weapons in the game. This one is significantly worse because, first of all, it's a 3 mana and you have to play a 3-drop before it, and that 3-drop has to die before you can get this. So you have it maybe with coin on turn 3, but more likely you'll have it earliest at turn 4. And there it becomes significantly less good. So I'm not too convinced by Deadly Fork. In Arena, on the other hand, it's pretty good, potentially. There it's better to have a weapon later on like this, but on the other hand, in Arena you more often have the problem that you want to use your hero power to get to have some value from your leftover mana, and you can't do that when you have a weapon. So all in all, I'm not too convinced by this card. Ethereal Peddler, battle 5 mana 5/6. So yeah, stat wise that's already pretty good. Battlecry, reduce the cost of cards from your hand from other classes by 2. Now, I don't see why I would want to play this over Emperor Thaurissan. Sure, Thaurissan costs 6, I think, but Thaurissan always works. It always reduces all the cards in your hand by 1. So for this, it's hard to say how many cards it would have to hit for it to be useful, because that very much depends on the cards. If you got cards that are already very cheap, if you got one mana card from something in your hand and you reduce it by 2, that's obviously more or less useless. If you reduce a Flame Strike by 2, that can be very significant. But always reducing everything by 1 with Thaurissan is just far more consistent, far more reliable, and far more plannable than reducing the cost of cards from other classes by 2. So as long as Thaurissan is in the set, I'd say that Thaurissan is almost universally better than Ethereal Peddler. But you can only have one Thaurissan. Maybe you want two Peddlers and Thaurissan? Or one Peddler, one Thaurissan? But I don't think so. Because getting the cards from other classes is too unreliable to build a deck around it. Getting enough of them is difficult because there are not too many cards that you actually want to play, because you don't want to play Burgle, because that's slow as crazy. And then it's random that you get the cards quickly enough in conjunction with Ethereal Peddler. So there's just too much randomness involved, too much unreliability involved. So I don't think that this is good. Shaman. Spirit Claws. That's a 1-drop, 1/3 weapon. Has +2 attack while you have spell damage. 1/3 weapon for 1 is almost good enough to be played on its own, especially at the moment with the meta with lots of 1 health minions. Having spell damage. Obviously, Shaman has Totem that can give you spell damage. Maybe this might with this you might want to play Blood Mage Thalnos. So you play this on turn 1. Then on turn 2 you play Thalnos, and then you have a 3/3 weapon for 1. That would be insanely good. So I think this has definite potential in a spell-heavy deck where you run 1 or 2 spell damage creatures. There aren't too many spell damage creatures that are worth it for Shaman. I think Blood Mage Thalnos, maybe the Drake or the Dragon, and of course your Totem. And that's more or less it, but that might be enough to push this over the edge to make it playable. In Arena, less good because less 1 health minions and less chance that you have spell damage, but then again that depends on how you're drafting. If you draft enough spell damage stuff or enough stuff that gives you your standard totems, basic totems, maybe. Wicked Witch Doctor. 4-drop, 3/4, so 3-drop stats. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random basic totem. These count towards your thing from below, so that's nice. Do you really want or need more basic totems? I'd say you can have. They don't really. They don't hurt you. It never hurts to have more basic totems. Or rarely hurts. Is it enough for 4-drop though? As a 3-drop, I'd say, okay, this is cool, this is nice, you just put this in. If you play it on 3, it's good enough on its own. And if you can combine it with 1 or 2 spells, then it becomes very good. At 4, I'm less optimistic. Careful maybe. In Arena, this is not very good because you don't have enough spells. Maelstrom Portal. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions, summon a random 1 cost minion. This is amazing. I mean, this is really good, I think. Because we have Arcane Explosion, which is 3 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Of course, that doesn't see any play. But reducing the cost of a card by 1, that can be very significant. And this is not only reducing an existing card by 1, it also gives you an additional upside of a random 1-cost minion. Now, random 1-cost minion, that's not going to be amazing. Often enough, you'll get something that's not good and will die quickly. But still, dealing 1 damage to all enemy minions against all the zoo decks and flood decks around, that's really useful. This is actually potentially another nail in the coffin for, where is he? For Morose. Because it's another good card that deals 1 damage to every enemy minion. Where is it? Here. So, yeah. I like this one. I think it's potentially very good. That's Shaman. Last two classes. First of all, Warlock, Malchazar's Imp. 1-drop, 1/3. Whenever you discard a card, draw a card. Now 1/3 for a 1-drop, that's good stats, because again, lots of 1 health minions around, and this kills them. And against the typical 1/1 with Divine Shield, or 1/1 that summons a 1/1 when it dies, or 2/1s, this can potentially go 2 for 1, which is great. The effect is also potentially very relevant if you start going for a discard deck. I don't think that this on its own is good enough for a discard deck, but let's say for 6 mana, you need both cards on your hand, but for 6 mana, playing a 1/3 and a 5/7 with charge, discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards, so cycle 2 cards. That's good. So, yeah, I like this. This goes in a new direction and starts maybe pushing towards a new archetype, if it's enough with the 2 cards we get right now. Maybe, maybe not. This one is less relevant of the 2. In Arena, it depends heavily on what you get. Karazhan. 5 mana, summon 1/1, a 2/2, and 3/3. Apart from the fact that they have very nice artwork, this is a bad card, I think, or at least a useless card in Constructed, because there's already something for 5 mana that summons the same amount of stats in the form of a 4/4 and a 2/2, which is arguably better, arguably worse, depends on the situation, but all in all close enough. And that card sees 0 play in Constructed, or almost 0 play in Constructed. Therefore, I think this card will see as much play in Constructed, which is almost 0. In Arena, though, the 4/4 with the 2/2 is a very good card, and this is also going to be a very good card in Arena. Silverware Golem. This is the more relevant discard synergy card. 3 mana, 3/3. If you discard this minion, summon it. So if you manage to summon this in conjunction with any card that drops a card, like Soulfire or anything, that would be very, very good. I don't think that this is good enough to put in the discard cards that weren't being played so far, like I don't think that you want to play Succubus just because there's a Silverware Golem in your deck. I don't think that it's good enough for that. But with the existing cards, the existing discarded card like Soulfire, this just pushes them up still a little bit. Because Soulfire is often good enough even if it just discards a card. And with this you have your Soulfire, which you're fine with playing on its own, and it has the potential of being even better. It has the potential of being 1 mana, deal 4 damage to a target, and play a 3/3. And that's insane. And even if you can't cheat it out, it's a 3/3 for 3, which is not good, but not so bad that it will lose you games. So, yeah, all in all, this is an amazingly good card. And the last class is Warrior. Fool's Bane. 5 mana, 3 for weapon, unlimited attacks. Each turn, can't attack heroes. So it's got infinite Whirlwind, but can only hit minions. So with upgrade, it becomes like a 4/5, and in conjunction with the Violet Illusionist, your hero is immune this turn, you could really bash in some creatures. That would be fun. Is it good enough? I don't know. The thing is, if you're a warrior and there's a lot of creatures on the board and you want to get rid of them, you don't really want to play a weapon and punch all of their faces with your face. You just want to play...
Brawl. And that's it. I love the thing that it's can't attack heroes, because that's a tag we haven't seen that often, I think on one creature so far. And I think this is a very, very useful tag. It's a very important tag that really needs to be in the game, because that allows Blizzard to print cards that are strong and fast without turning them into face race cards. And so I love the tag. I want to see more of that. Whether this card is specifically good, I'm not that convinced. In Arena, I think it's pretty good. Ironforge Portal, 5 mana, gain 4 armor, summon a random 4-cost minion. People have... Yeah, the comparison to the Shield Maiden comes up, which is 5/5 for 5 armor for 6. This is one less mana, 1 less armor, and gives you a random 4 cost, which is something like a 4/4 or a bit better. I'm not sure. I'm not too happy with this card. I'm not too convinced. Again, I don't like the randomness. It's especially in a spot like 4 drops where there's quite a lot of crappy ones you really don't want. So the potential spread in this card is just too much for me. I don't like it when the spread is so much that you can say to play this card, it can be extremely amazing, or it can be really crappy. So I'm not a fan of this card. I don't think that it's terrible, because, well, armor for shield slam and so on is always useful, and to survive the onslaught of all the face decks. But with a random 4-cost minion attached to it, yeah, not convinced. And the last one, Protect the King. 3 mana for each enemy minion, summon a 1/1 pawn with taunt. I don't see a situation where I want to play this, honestly. To get value out of it, I'd want to play it when my opponent has a lot of creatures on the board. But when my opponent has a lot of creatures on the board, I want to get rid of the creatures and not play 1/1 pawns with taunt. Because 1 AoE effect and they're all gone. And then I get my face bashed in. And even if he doesn't have an AoE effect, it just... at best it gives me 1 more turn. Which of course can sometimes be relevant, but... wouldn't I rather just brawl? Or have some other AoE effect? Or kill off like 2 or 3 of them with other stuff? So, no, I don't really see the value of this card. Neither in Constructed nor in... Because for it to have to get value out of it, you want to summon as many pawns as possible, which means you want your opponent to have 7 creatures on the board and you yourself have no creatures on the board. And then you do this. And is that any good? Then you have 7 1/1s and your opponent has 7 creatures. I don't think that that's a good situation to be in. The only situation where I could think of that this might be is a combination with Brawl, because then it gives you a very high chance that your opponent's minion doesn't win. That one of your minions survives, or I think a 50-50 chance at least. But is that worth a card and 3 mana? I'd say no. So yeah, not a good card. Even worse in Arena. All in all, is this set going to help the problems Hearthstone is in at the moment? It's not going to help Priest, not at all. It might spawn 1 or 2 new archetypes. Maybe Beast Druid becomes good enough. Maybe Dragon Paladin becomes good enough. People will definitely try that. Maybe discard Warlock could be a thing. People will definitely try that. But I don't think that the underlying problems that at least I think Hearthstone has at the moment, that it's too easy to just rush your opponent down. It's too the aggressive and tempo decks are too good, and slower control-oriented decks are just too weak. And I don't see that this changes anything about it. There's no easily available, reliable heal. There's no easily available, good early game taunt. Thespian. No. So yeah, I don't see that it... And yeah, this one doesn't count either. So I don't really see that it changes the matter. I think it will change it early on, because there will be many people who will try like 1 or 2 new archetypes, but I think the old archetypes that we have right now will stay strong, and we are not really getting any tools to fight them. So, all in all, I'm a bit skeptic. Yeah. That's pretty much it. My card review for Karazhan. I'm Kamaleao. Have a good time.